What you are about to watch should not have been possible. Science says it couldn't happen. Nature says it shouldn't. But deep in the misty forests of Central Africa, a golden retriever named Buddy proved every single rule wrong. And what unfolded over the next 2 years left wildlife researchers speechless and grown men weeping. The Bwindi impenetrable forest in Uganda earns its name. Ancient trees press so tightly together that the afternoon sun barely reaches the forest floor. Moss blankets every stone. Mist drifts between the trunks like a slow breath. Mountain gorillas have called this place home for tens of thousands of years, but their numbers have fallen so low that every single infant born carries the weight of a species on its tiny shoulders. Buddy had lived near the forest's edge for 3 years, belonging to a small wildlife conservation outpost run by researchers tracking the gorilla population. He was the kind of dog that people describe as having a soul. Calm amber eyes, a tail that never stopped moving, and a patience so deep it seemed almost ancient. The researchers adored him, they trusted him, but nobody could have predicted what he would do on the morning everything changed. A ranger named Oliver was making his routine sweep through the eastern ridge when he heard something that stopped him cold. Not the usual forest sounds, not birdsong, a thin, desperate cry. 3 of them, layered on top of each other like a terrible cord. He pushed through the undergrowth and found them in the shadow of a fallen mahogany tree. 3 baby gorillas, no older than a few weeks each, huddled together in the dirt. Their mother was gone. A snare wire, the kind poachers used, told the story no one wanted to read. She had fought to free herself and vanished, likely fatally wounded, somewhere deeper in the forest. Oliver radioed the outpost immediately. By the time he carried them back wrapped in his jacket, Buddy was waiting at the gate. Nobody called him there. He simply appeared, the way he always seemed to appear when something needed him. The moment Oliver set the 3 infants on the ground, the world held its breath. The smallest gorilla, barely the size of a human fist, made a sound so fragile it barely qualified as a cry. Buddy stepped forward slowly. Oliver reached for him, instinctively protective. But Buddy stopped just short of the infants, lowered himself onto his belly, and did not move. He simply lay there, body warm and steady, radiating the kind of calm that no amount of training produces. The smallest gorilla crawled forward. It took 11 minutes. Oliver counted, 11 minutes before that tiny hand reached out and touched Buddy's golden fur, and when it did, the crying stopped. What followed over the coming weeks defied every expectation the research team held. The 3 infants, whom the team named after the stars in Orion's belt, Rigel, Betelgeuse, and Mintaka, refused to sleep unless Buddy was beside them. They climbed onto his back during feeding breaks. They pulled his ears with the casual cruelty that only the very young and the very loved ever get away with. Buddy endured all of it with a stillness that resembled devotion. Researchers noted something extraordinary in their field logs. The gorilla's cortisol levels, the biological marker of stress, dropped measurably when Buddy was present. When he was taken to the other side of the compound for his own feeding, Mintaka, the most anxious of the 3, would pace in tight circles until he returned. The bond was not behavioral, it was physiological. It was real. Months passed. The gorillas grew. Their play became rougher, louder, more confident. Buddy matched every phase of their development with what can only be described as emotional intelligence. When they needed warmth, he provided stillness. When they needed stimulation, he rolled and play-bowed and let himself be chased through the compound grass until all 4 of them collapsed, panting and tangled together under the Uganda sky. But the turning point came 13 months in, when the compound was breached. A group of poachers, 3 men who'd been working the eastern ridge for months, cut the perimeter fence just before dawn. They were not after Buddy. They were not after the researchers. They had tracked the growing gorilla's location through illegal informants and come for them in the darkness. Oliver was asleep. The night watch had stepped away for only minutes. Buddy woke up before the fence was fully cut. What the security camera recorded next became evidence in a criminal prosecution. Buddy placed himself physically between the 3 gorillas and the gap in the fence, barking with a ferocity that none of the researchers had ever heard from him. He did not run. He did not retreat. He held that line, alone, in the dark, for 4 minutes, the longest 4 minutes Oliver said he had ever lived through, until the alarm reached the sleeping quarters and the team came running. The poachers fled. All 3 were apprehended on the access road before sunrise. They are currently serving sentences in a Ugandan court. And here is where the story becomes something else entirely. 2 years after that morning Oliver found 3 dying infants in the dirt, Rigel, Betelgeuse, and Mintaka were healthy enough for their supervised transition back to the forest edge. A rare success that conservationists described as a near miracle given their age at rescue. On the morning of their transfer, the team documented one final moment. Each gorilla approached Buddy in turn. Each pressed their forehead to his. Mintaka held on longest, both small hands buried in that golden fur, as if memorizing something important. The poachers who killed their mother are in prison. The snares on the eastern ridge were removed, and 3 mountain gorillas, a species teetering on the edge of extinction, are alive in the forest they were born to inhabit, because a golden retriever decided one quiet morning that they were worth protecting. Justice, it turns out, has a warm body and amber eyes. If this story moved you, please hit the like button right now and subscribe to this channel. We bring you the most extraordinary true wildlife stories from across the natural world every single week. Turn on notifications so you never miss one.